That's it. Right.
All right.
So, you did a link,
Yes.
but not embedded.
No, I watched the Google or the YouTube video, and I tried it once, and it didn't work, and then I went to links because I was running low on time.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. There's a couple places where I just have a link instead of embedding.
All right. So, what artifact did you choose?
I chose the CAPS overview because the CAPS I just thought it was something really important that I had.
Is it on this page?
I think so. Oh, go up.
So the caps would be.
Was that planning?
Yeah. So here's your video overview of the video of the whole unit. Right.
Yes.
So
it's just really So basically, I got to use the video as my artifact.
That's the major artifact. I mean, there's other things you can put on here, right?
Right. You know, honestly, I thought the caps was on that page, and that's.
And that could be, and this is what you could add. We can imagine you're going to put it on here, and you'll add it on later. So in the video, we'll highlight that as well. But what are you going to say about the caps that you're going to put on this video? You're going to put on this front page.
In the video?
No, you're going to put the caps on this front page in some way.
Well, I'd start by just summarizing what they are on the next page actually.
Yeah.
But I'd summarize the cognitive, affective, psychomotor skills that we were focusing on in our badminton lesson.
Good, and that would be good to the front overview here, right? So if you took that and put it in here, it's you give a broad overview. When you go into the caps into individual lessons, you're breaking it down into the teaching styles and the
what
curriculum.
I really thought was so important about the caps was just the fact that before this course necessarily, I'd say caps were definitely not a thing on my mind when I was doing planning.
Right.
They'd be something on my mind for evaluation.
Right.
But I wouldn't necessarily be like, okay, if I'm going to evaluate on these caps, I need to plan my lessons around, teaching these caps, not necessarily the skills, right?
So and I'm just reading here because you're looking at meta thinking skills, right? So what I'm seeing here is in this row, right? You started to think about the caps because you developed a growth mindset in that you took on, obviously, the teaching styles, the Mostyn ideas, and they made sense to you that the way in which we teach something is probably as or more important than actually what we teach.
And to get to those goals you're setting for the end of the unit, you need to know the caps before you even start the planning process in my mind, right? And that's just that, and part of that implies to the growth mindset part you talked about, because I don't think that's something I necessarily would have considered before. Just going a lot of my teaching experiences I did well. I was in high school and stuff like that, and that is very different than now that I'm going on to be a teacher myself. Helping out a teacher by tutoring and basically things like that. I'm just focusing on this outcome, right?
Yeah.
Instead of how I'm going to get there.
And so
that's just a big difference.
Now, hopefully, what I'm thinking here is you're looking at this because this is.
And
you put yourself here. I don't know if you rate yourself.
I did developing.
So you're in developing, right? So working with others, reflect on your understanding of teaching and learning in order to advance the learning of students and develop their growth mindset as well. Promote a growth mindset with your peers through course, tasks, readings, and experiences. So you're starting to articulate that. Now, part of the issue with CAPS is understanding cognitive represents, and if you looked at what, say, Brett put up on that Bloom's taxonomy, what is it that is cognitive? It's way more than just recalling. Right?
Yeah.
The ability to synthesize, analyze, be creative with, apply, evaluate, all those things are cognitive process for problem solving, right? And then if you look at the affective domain, you realize that if you start doing things cognitively, your attitude starts to change. If I'm not very good at it physically, but I can make the environment adjust so I have a chance.
Effective's probably the one I'm not as... I was always less familiar with, and it's just I'm learning about it. It's a little. I'd say it lags behind my understanding in the
well, and that's where your idea of reciprocal comes in, right? Because as soon as you do reciprocal, then you bring effective in big time because you're giving a student responsibility to help the peer learn.
Yeah, and that's maybe just especially working regularly with a younger demographic, giving them that responsibility isn't always something we're trying to do or I'm trying to do in my life compared to this, where our actual teaching, where definitely.
Well, and we can think about reciprocal shifts. So if I'm doing 6-year-olds, kids counting for the other 6-year-old, that's reciprocal.
Right. Okay.
How many times did you get it in?
Okay.
Did you do it behind the line?
Right. So just
Right?
like
If you hit that target,
monitoring.
now you go back a line further, right? Oh, can you opposite foot like the teacher said? Or I call it peanut butter and jam, opposite, right?
Right.
So a 6-year-old can still give reciprocal to another 6-year-old.
Yeah.
So you create the potential for them to gain success by their peer success, right?
Yeah.
And now you've created a cycle of a learning environment that socially is very responsive to each other.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
And then that's how the CAP starts to work. And that's what Mostyn was really trying to get at.
Right.
In that basically every content is just an excuse to teach these things.
Yeah.
Because they transfer across. Your lucky thing is now our new curriculum says we totally agree with that.
Yeah. And that's like, because obviously I grew up in a different curriculum. It's adjusting that mindset to, like I said, include those CAPs just as planning tools, not just assessment tools.
So what I'm going to do on this page,
All right.
I'll come and make a checklist to make it work for you, but
Okay.
add a bit at the top here to capture that.
So add the CAP part. Right?
CAP part explaining, and then link it to the video. So in the video, this is where I start to see it happen.
So like, be like, okay, so in like talk about something in cognitive and be like, okay, this is where that happens.
Yeah. We did a question, they put their hands up, or
Okay.
a set situation where a kid was giving feedback to another kid, or a situation where the kids was checking, or they played a game where the score changed the structure of the game.
Right. So like, like I score, I make my area bigger. Like that's an example.
Then a kid realizes, floating space, right?
Yeah.
Great content, right? Because they're taking advantage of the advantage.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I agree.
Good. All right. So that will be how you develop that page.
Okay.
Okay. Now, where's page 2? Up here. So on planning. So planning, you're putting in your lesson sequence.
Yeah. So I struggled with that again. So as you see, there's a link to sequence overview because I could not.
So you want to download it, upload the Word, do preview, and
So
then
download it as a Word document from Google Drive.
just download it and then upload it back into whatever drive you want to use, your G Suite or your personal.
But it has to be a Google Doc, or it can't be a Google Doc. Is that why?
If you do a doc and click preview, and then the preview shows, and then take the link for that share on the preview, it will then embed. Or the easy way is just download it and then take it back up as a Word document.
Okay. So it's like a Word doc in your Google Drive.
Yeah, when you double click on that, it'll just do preview.
Okay.
And it'll open up and preview, and then you can do the same thing.
And then I would embed the doc, not the Google Drive thing.
So, and that won't actually log in when I can do that. But that would embed that. Okay. I know what you're going to put in there, right? So you put that in there, and what you focused on there when you looked at skills. Which are these? There's a planning skill, right? So you're looking at planning skill. And this was in implementing periodically context-appropriate sound practices. So the idea of integrating everything together, and you're looking at the planning skills as an aspect of that.
Yeah,
right?
and I think I definitely wanted to at least obviously the planning page seemed like the right place to reflect on planning skills. But planning was always what I would reflect on as my weakness in teaching. It's not something I know it's important, but I don't go deep enough. Like for example, I think I mentioned like space visualizations. I would have never even thought to do that before this, just because I was like.
So drawing.
Yeah, because in my head I'd be like, oh, that's maybe I'd seen it, I would see it, but I wouldn't understand the value of it. Because I'd be like, oh wow, that looks like a lot of work for just knowing where the kids will be over there. That'll be fine, right? But now I understand. I really started to understand after that first lesson, when I would say my space visualizations were more just there because I had to do them, not necessarily because I knew. So then I was like, okay, well we're doing a warm up, but there's nets all in the way, and people are running into each other. Right? And then obviously in the second lesson.
And that was with 10 kids.
Yeah. Right? So then
in the gym with 4 badminton courts.
Yeah. So obviously that I think really showed, at least for the space visualization part, and overall how I need to plan a little deeper, not just, we're going to focus on this for, 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll do that for 15 to 20 minutes, but we're going to do this for 3 minutes, there's going to be a progression, we're going to bring the kids in, we're going to ask this question, we're going to hope for this response, if they don't, I may push that response, and then so all that kind of deeper planning that.
So what
and that's just me getting me.
Well, now you're starting to realize the connection between the conditions you set up and the teaching processes you use to get at the caps.
Yeah, and just
right. And so all of those are all interacting with each other, and then you got to look at the progression. So now part of your planning skills, which is probably not mentioned because you're thinking more on the spatial, which is good.
Yeah.
But the idea is, I have an end goal in mind.
Yeah.
Draw it.
Yeah.
Now,
right.
how am I going to get to that end goal? As in, I've got every kid playing a game with a kid umpiring, right?
Yeah.
What am I going to do back here that will facilitate? So I've got to teach the kid the rules so they can umpire. I've got to put them into pairs so they actually have a close game. I've got to make sure the games adjust and make it close score. I've got to put them into teams so they're actually competitive.
Yeah,
I've got to rotate it.
Fair so that they don't
so now all your planning, you have a bit at the end and you're backing up to add all the caps elements to make that work.
Yeah, and that's kind of like right back to what we were talking about on the first page, right? It's just the caps are, and again, not just a assessment thing. They are for, you need to understand them before you even start the planning process. Otherwise, you're assessing on something that you might not even be teaching, right?
Right.
Or
you
might
and
not
you have to
address
realize
early.
every kid is at different levels in all the caps, and it varies depending on the activity. So the kid is not consistently at the top of everything. They're going to vary on the caps.
Yeah. In the actual lessons and teaching experience, I'd say that was probably the thing that I struggled with the most, or just like it was not something we really addressed and something I didn't know how to address. Like just there's such different levels. Like if there's a kid like struggling so significantly and like he never wins, so he never progresses. Do I just progress him myself? Does he feel bad if I go and progress him myself? Like all these little things that I guess I wasn't really expecting until we had that, right? You know, I was like, okay, he needs a little more help. How am I going to do this without him feeling like, you know, I'm just
and that's where the progression starts to work. Because you simplify it, everybody's working on it, and as you progress, you advance back to the game. But if you're not progressing, then I'm helping you to get to the next level. Because I don't want you playing a game where you can't play. And when I enter the game, I want you to play the game with something that challenges your opponent. Don't just keep missing. Do something. So if I catch it and throw it, he's going to have a game now. Right?
One thing I noticed though was the kid I'm thinking of.
Big blonde kid with long arms.
Yeah. He actually he did his self-evaluation. He was pretty happy with how he did, which was relative
to what he's used
to.
And he has some type of dyspraxia or something around tracking.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't track it until it arrives.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't see it.
That.
He does not see it until it comes. So you have to find out what that is.
I couldn't think that was the exact issue, but now that you mentioned
it. He's just not tracking it in the air. Right? He doesn't, and I don't know if he
is. It's that what am I, because that's one of the main questions I have somewhere in there. It's like, what am I going to do before the object comes?
Yeah.
And that was kind of what he struggled with. And maybe that's, instead of trying to focus on okay, you know, I think I should have focused more on that question than just be like I found sometimes like he missed the serve, so I just be try again. And it's not really.
No, you don't try again unless you give something to try with, right? So this time do this.
Oh,
right?
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so when you gave feedback to him that time when he kept missing, and he just kept doing this,
yeah. You know, remember the serve? Yeah.
It's like
I was trying.
Don't drop, just let go and hit. But he kept tossing it over his racket. But all he needed to have was drop, hit.
That's probably what we should.
But he kept.
We should have started not even over net. I should have just been drop it and hit it. Anywhere, it doesn't matter.
So when you see the issue, then you got to go back up. Now it could be a whole class needs that, or it could be just the one kid needs that.
And so, question: if it is that one kid, how do I address it without making him feel?
Yeah, you put it out, you just adapt it. Okay, well you can do 10 of those, and then when you do this. Okay. Now your partner, I want you to help him do this, but look for this, this, and this. As soon as he gets to 10, I want you to rally and see if you can get a 20.
Yeah, because that was always something I was concerned about. It's just singling him out in a
way. But what you realize once you start dealing with reciprocal as a norm, you can implement it any time.
Yeah.
So the whole class learns it, but then individually and pairs always have it.
Yeah.
And then as you start extending your planning, and then you do things like sports ed model, it just becomes Taylor, you're the captain. Yeah. Matthew wants to work on this.
They already know the roles.
They go and do it, and they work on that, and they own Matthew getting better.
Yeah.
So that's how those models then emerge out of these teaching tools that you're learning when you extend it over a longer period of time. Right?
Yeah.
Which is exciting, I think, because you realize that you can see kids helping other kids.
Yeah, and that oh my god, I love to see when when the students are succeeding like that, like that's honestly the most fulfilling
and
part of it.
So part of what this now so you reflect, we'll get this sort of cleaner up, right? But what you've got in here is the sequencing of lesson, which I got you to do post really your lessons, right?
Yeah.
So this is looking at really, you're looking back at the progression of your lessons. So your reflection on your planning skills here is going to be, okay, now in hindsight, we got to here, but I realized if early on I'd done this, I could have done it this, right? What is it that was working and what do I need to now work on?
Right.
Because this was an overview. And part of the columns was to get you to say, what was I thinking in the lesson? Yes, I was teacher dominant, I was managed command, but damn, by the time I got lesson 3, I was starting to do it. But if I'd done more of this earlier, then I could have done this here. Right? You're starting to realize, I mean, it took you time, you did 4 lessons, but the 4 lessons have allowed you now to see what you could have done earlier.
Right. So we're kind of looking at the differences from like that first lesson and 4th lesson in our
how you understood
planning,
learning, how you did your role as a teacher, what you were using, and you all got way more confident about using more stuff and in a more productive way. I mean, you did stuff in the first lesson because I sort of made you.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I remember.
And then you started realizing, oh shit, they couldn't. Yeah, well, oh my god, even right. I have to adapt this to them, right?
Yeah.
And then you started getting, oh, this is what they need, rather than badminton. It's catching a freaking ball that's thrown over a net.
Yeah.
Catching an object.
Yeah.
Right. It's going toward badminton, but it's not really badminton.
No, no. And then I think so then the next issue I had in my head was, like how are we going to make this fun and exciting for the kids? But then being able to use like a lot of the suggestions ended up coming from you, but like the games and stuff that maybe seem simple, right? Or they are simple, but you just add these little progressions to make it seem like, like you're leveling up talk, right? Like, okay, like I'm just throwing it over a net with a partner 10 times. Oh, but now I get to do this. Oh, now I get to use this.
Brilliant! Write that in there. The example where you've started to set tasks where the kids have targets, and targets lead to new things, and they keep expanding. That's what you want to write.
Okay.
And if you remember that little Google slide I gave you, you can stick it in here or somewhere. Where I just tried to visualize
the space visualization.
I did the whole thing.
The space visualization.
Embed that somewhere because I think that was just right. When you were doing it, it just triggered you to what you were doing.
Yeah, no, that was really helpful.
Well, no, but that's what I'm trying to do. I see what you're doing, and I just tried to give you something that triggers you. That's all.
Yeah.
Right. So you're developing here, but I want you to look back at that lesson plan. Now your lesson plans will be the same thing, linked in here.
So I would embed them, right?
And you've done the reflections here. Cool.
Yeah.
So what did you choose as your focus here?
I did my the reflections 1, 2, and 4 just because I didn't write reflection 3.
So this competency was, what's the skill here?
Reflecting skills, I believe.
So
it was kind of
this one.
Yeah.
So it's exploring and evaluating this one, right?
Yep.
So where would you place yourself on this one?
I gave myself proficient. I think reflecting is one of my strengths. Personally, I find I miss a lot during the lesson, but then upon reflection, I always find I'm seeing these things that you might have been right in front of me in the lesson.
Right.
But because I'm so involved or focused on the kids that I don't even really notice it necessarily.
And I think the details is cool, right? And the fact that you post them all here is implying you value those details.
I do. I loved doing those teaching experiences, and it was my favorite part of like anything I've done in university so far. And usually the writing part, I'm like, oh, okay. But the reflecting, I felt like I learned more from the reflecting than the actual teaching experience. Even though I loved the teaching experience, the reflecting was where I did the learning.
Right.
Like I did more of the getting the experience in the teaching.
So now what we do with that reflecting is moving it into changing your practice.
Yeah.
As you're evaluating
how I'm going to plan, how I'm going to teach, how I'm going to even reflect. Like my reflecting has changed the way I will reflect in the future. Right?
Yeah. And that you're taking on more board, and you're also starting to identify specific things here.
Yeah.
So if you're saying it's about more precise feedback, then your planning and your progressions have to have good prompts that you can then draw on, so you can be more precise with that feedback.
Yeah.
Right?
My main goal there was to give better feedback to others in particular. Just because
your
for
peers.
myself, like I I feel like I'm pretty good at reflecting on myself. But like, let's say when I'm giving feedback to other people, right? I don't. I always kind of feel like I'm just like, okay, Tim wants me to check or to go over this, so they're doing that, yes. But not really. I'm kind of just checking the boxes and not giving them feedback that's meaningful to that, like they can reflect on and improve their practice, right?
And that's for your peers, not just
yeah.
for
That's for my peers personally. That's what I didn't actually. I didn't reflect on my reflecting on students myself, but
so
I
part of it,
on myself and my peers.
Well, part of that would be also how you're prompting the community to be learning through you giving feedback to your peers, who then feedback. There's a back and forth, right? And you're prompting each other, right? That's what my whole of the forums was about, right?
Yeah.
So, because of time, we're going to last one here. So this is your assessment one?
Yes.
So this was...
Again, not the best formatting, but I tried.
Again, it will embed it. If you just do the Word thing and embed it, it will work. So just revise
that was definitely the issue, because I kept trying with the Google Drive.
And these self-reflections, what are these ones? I have to sign again.
They're pictures of the filled-in self-reflections.
From the students?
Of the students, yeah.
Okay, so they're easy to embed as well.
Yeah.
So if you go and look on the videos...
So there's embedding a picture. Right?
Yeah, you embed a picture. You can embed a picture either... If you just put it into Google Photos, and then you can do an album and embed it and it will appear there. Or you can embed the images in here.
You can download it to your computer and embed it from that way, right?
Yeah. So either way you can do it. But if you look at those videos, it talks about how to use pictures.
Yeah.
So those 4 videos that are up there.
Yeah.
So on this one, you focused on here.
I think I did the
assessment skills.
Yeah, and I did I was focusing on the self-reflection.
Right.
That we did for the kids and why that was so important.
And tell me what you got, because I haven't read it yet. Assessment skills, okay?
Yeah. So I was mostly just talking about
development, right?
I said developing and the changing of
using different ones, okay?
Yeah. So how growing up, I always focused on the focus is in my schooling was always the grade, right? And the teacher gave the grade, and it always pissed me off. But so I really value the idea of a kid having at least some say in their own assessment, like you kind of talked about in English, how they list what you need to do to get that certain grade, right? I think that's even farther than what we did here, but at least in this sense, we gave them an ability to say, okay, I think I did this one, and then I feel like as a teacher, you should take that, compare it to what your view of assessment for them is.
Yeah.
So our main assessment method was just through observation and mainly the Monarch of the Court game.
Okay.
In both the first and
so what I want you to do here, this is really good because you've got to finish up as well, is once you've got these we've got this embedded properly, and put those in there, make a link exactly that. Look at some of the kids say here and what you said about them. Okay. And then just add that in your...
Similarities and differences maybe.
Just put here in your 3
okay.
where you actually start to do that, because then your goal would be, in the future then, how can I make this happen more for students, where my assessment and their assessment becomes more and more in line. So basically, I'm teaching them how to assess.
Yeah, they can better assess themselves and reflect on themselves.
Yeah.
I like that.
Cool.
Okay.
Good.
Awesome.
All right, I'm just going to stop this now.